You were lied to. Everyone said the Blake and Miranda split was clean, that they just moved on. But that is the biggest lie in country music history. While Blake was on TV smiling through the pain,
Yeah, all the words I thought I knew, they got a brand.
Miranda was in the shadows, executing a plan so cold, so calculated, it terrified the industry. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was a takeover. And she didn't do it alone. She dragged the biggest names into the crossfire. Gwen Stefani felt the ground shake. Even Kelly Clarkson got caught in the middle of the Cold War. But the real twist, the person Miranda secretly aligned with to take the throne. It's the one name Blake never expected. And once you see the proof, you'll never look at the voice the same way again.
Say I'll be okay, but I'm not.
And walking away. Most people think the story ended when the divorce papers were signed. They think the tears dried up, the mansions were sold, and that was it. But that's the fairy tale version. The real story is much darker. It's quieter. And it's happening right now while everyone else is distracted by the headlines. You were never supposed to notice this. Not the timing. Not the quiet moves. Not the way one small decision sent shockwaves through Nashville without a single headline screaming about it. Because while everyone was busy replaying the public breakup, the interviews, the jokes, the smiles that looked healed, something else was happening in the background. Something deliberate. Something risky. But before I show you exactly who she aligned with, and trust me, the name is going to shock you, you need to understand the war zone they left behind. For years, the story felt simple. Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton fell in love. They ruled country music together. They were the king and queen, the prom king and queen of the South. Then they burned out in front of the world. A clean split, people said. Painful, but respectful. Two stars moving on, but come on. You know better than that. The industry never really believed it was that clean. It just waited. And Nashville always waits. It waits for the cracks to show. It waits for the silence to break. And in this case, the silence was deafening. Think about it for a second. When you break up with someone, you usually just block their number, maybe unfollow them, and get on with your life. But when you are a brand, a business, and a global superstar, you can't just block them. You have to watch them win. You have to watch them move on. You have to turn on the TV and see them laughing on The Voice like nothing happened. Imagine how that feels in your gut.
She put the hurt in hurt. She put the why.
That kind of pain doesn't just vanish. It goes underground. And that is where Miranda went. While Blake was out there, visible, charming, living his best life in front of millions, Miranda went into the shadows. And that is usually where the most dangerous plans are hatched. Because after the divorce dust settled, something subtle began to happen. A like here, a congratulatory message there. A songwriter suddenly popping up in a session where they didn't quite belong. Nothing loud. Nothing obvious. Just enough to make the sharpest fans tilt their heads and say, wait, why is she involved in that? It was barely a ripple. But in an industry built on loyalty, a ripple can turn into a tsunami real quick. You have to understand the pressure cooker these artists live in. It isn't just Blake and Miranda. Look at Gwen Stefani. Look at Kelly Clarkson. They are all tangled in this web of public expectations and private heartbreak. Gwen came into the picture with her own baggage, her own public split, trying to build something new on top of the rubble of the past. It's messy. It's human. And it makes every single move scrutinized.
I don't know why I cry, but I think it's 'cause I remember for the first time.
And then there's Kelly, the friend, the one who has to stand in the middle and smile when the cameras are rolling. Imagine being in that room. Imagine the tension backstage at award shows when everyone knows the history, but nobody is saying a word. That is the air they breathe. Thick with secrets. So when Miranda started making these tiny, quiet moves, the industry veterans noticed. At first, the whispers didn't have a name. Just vibes. Miranda showing quiet support for someone who wasn't supposed to be in her orbit. Someone who had history. Someone who had tension with Blake. This wasn't just some random artist. This was someone widely considered one of Blake's professional rivals. At least in the unspoken, competitive world of country radio, award shows, and chart positioning. Not enemies. But not friends either. The kind of rivalry no one admits, but everyone feels in their gut. And here's the thing. In Nashville, nothing is accidental, especially not silence, and especially not who you choose to write with. But here is where it gets crazy. There were moments that didn't make sense unless you were looking closely with a magnifying glass. A tour decision that raised eyebrows, a behind-the-scenes recommendation that somehow benefited the other side, a producer connection that magically lined up at the perfect time. Fans brushed it off. They said we were reading too much into it. But industry folks didn't brush it off. They started asking why Miranda, of all people, would put her weight behind a move that didn't align with Blake's interests, or at least didn't appear to. You have to remember who Miranda is. She didn't come up by asking permission. She built her career by refusing to soften her edges. By writing songs that said the quiet parts out loud. She is the kerosene. She is the gunpowder. So when people ask why she'd do something like this, maybe the better question is why we're surprised. She wasn't acting out of character. She was stepping fully into it. Because after the divorce, she didn't just lose a husband. She lost alliances. Industry dinners changed. Phone calls stopped coming. The invisible protection that comes with being half of a power couple disappeared overnight. And when that happens, you have a choice. You either shrink and disappear into the background, or you build something new. You find new allies. You sharpen your sword. And maybe that's exactly what this was. Not an attack. Not a betrayal. But a declaration. A message that said, I don't owe loyalty to a story that no longer includes me. Supporting a rival isn't always about hurting someone else. Sometimes it's about choosing yourself in a room that expects you to stay quiet. But you have to admit, the timing is suspicious. And this is the part that keeps me up at night. If this was just about moving on, why choose him? Why choose the one person who represents the antithesis of Blake's brand? We're going to get to the name in a second, but first, you need to understand the stakes. Country music is a family. But it's a family like the mafia is a family. You don't go against the Godfather, and for a long time, Blake has been a massive pillar in that town. He has the hits. He has the TV show. He has the charm. To go against that current requires guts. It requires a strategy that goes beyond just releasing a breakup song. A breakup song fades. A strategic alliance lasts forever. It shifts the money. It shifts the power. And Miranda knows this game better than anyone. She grew up in it. She knows that a song isn't just a song. It's a chess move. And every collaboration is a statement of intent. So when the songwriting circles started talking, people listened. Studio musicians noticed familiar names popping up where they hadn't before. A casual endorsement here. A private introduction there. Moves that don't show up on Instagram, but absolutely show up on royalty statements and radio pipelines. The kind of support that doesn't look like support unless you understand how the machine works. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. This wasn't about revenge. That would have been messy and loud and desperate. This felt strategic, calculated, almost calm. Like someone deciding they were done playing by expectations written by other people. It's terrifyingly brilliant if you think about it. The best revenge isn't keying a car. It's helping the competition win. Still, that doesn't mean it didn't sting. Because imagine being Blake. Put yourself in his boots for a second. Imagine realizing that someone who knew your strategy, your timing, your goals was now quietly empowering someone competing for the same space. No announcement, no warning, just results. Songs climbing, tours selling, influence shifting. That kind of realization doesn't come with a headline. It comes in private moments. A chart update, a booking you didn't get, a call that didn't come through. And the scariest part, if this really happened, it worked. Because while we were all watching the romantic drama, the business drama was unfolding right under our noses. And nobody noticed until it was too late to stop it. Country music has always sold the idea of family, of loyalty, of shared roots. But behind the scenes, it's business, high stakes, emotional, personal. And when personal history collides with professional ambition, things get complicated fast. So now fans are left wondering, was this planned years in advance? Or did it evolve naturally as Miranda rebuilt her world post-divorce? Was it intentional or inevitable? And most importantly, does Blake even know the full extent of it? Because the truth is, we're probably only seeing the surface. The real moves happen long before the public ever catches on. And if this chapter is only now being whispered about, it means the next one might already be written. And when it finally becomes impossible to ignore, nothing in country music will look the same again. It makes you question every collaboration you see now. Is it art? Or is it warfare? But you are probably shouting at the screen right now asking, who is it? Who did she support? That's the twist. It wasn't some new up-and-comer. It was someone established. Someone with their own gravity.
I usually make it through Saturday sober. All bets are off when I...
That's when one name started coming up in hushed conversations. Eric Church. Not because of a public feud, not because of a headline-grabbing fight, but because of timing, influence, and the quiet power plays that happen far away from red carpets. Eric had his own lane, his own sound, his own fiercely loyal fan base, and more importantly, he occupied chart space Blake cared about. No one said, betrayal, out loud. They didn't have to. In this industry, support is currency, and when you spend it, people notice who benefits. Miranda never announced anything. She didn't clap back at rumors. She didn't deny a thing. And that's what made it louder. Because if it were false, this would have been easy to shut down. Instead, the silence stretched. And in that silence, patterns started forming. It brings up so many memories of how these things usually go down. You see the public face, the smiles, the "we are all friends" act. But deep down, the hurt is steering the ship. Think about the lyrics these artists write. They pour their souls into 3 minutes of melody. But sometimes the real poetry is in what they don't say. It's in the actions they take when the microphone is off. It reminds me of that feeling when you see an ex moving on, but not just moving on, leveling up. It triggers something primal. It makes you question your own standing. And for Blake, watching Miranda thrive, not just survive, must have been a complicated pill to swallow. Especially if she was helping the competition. It's like your ex-wife coaching the opposing football team. It's not illegal. But man, it feels personal. But hold on, because this goes deeper than just Eric Church. He is just the symbol. The real story is about autonomy. It's about a woman in a male-dominated industry deciding she is going to build her own table if they won't give her a seat at the big one anymore. And that resonates with so many people. We have all been there. Left out. Pushed aside. And we have all had to decide, do we beg for entry, or do we break the door down? Miranda chose the sledgehammer, but she wrapped it in velvet. She didn't make a scene. She made a move. And there is a huge difference. Scenes get attention. Moves get results. I want you to really think about that distinction. In your own life, are you making scenes or making moves? Because Miranda Lambert just gave a masterclass in the latter. But this story isn't over. In fact, the fallout is just starting to settle. And what happened next is even more surprising than the initial alliance. Because once the door was opened, others started walking through it too. The industry started to realize that the old alliances were crumbling. The Blake and Miranda era was truly dead, and a new era of fragmented, shifting loyalties had begun. And in this new era, the rules were different. You didn't have to pick a side publicly. You could play both sides. You could smile at the CMA Awards and then go write a hit song that knocks your friend off the #1 spot. It became a game of shadows. And nobody plays in the shadows better than a songwriter with a broken heart and a point to prove. The lyrics got sharper. The production got grittier. The stakes got higher. It brings us back to that core question of loyalty. What do we owe the people we used to love? Do we owe them our career choices? Do we owe them our professional circles? Or does the debt get canceled the minute the papers are signed? It's a gray area. And country music hates gray areas. It wants black and white. Good and bad. Heroes and villains. But real life isn't a country song. It's messy. And this situation is the messiest of them all. So as we dive into the second part of this story, keep your eyes open. Because what I'm about to show you regarding the specifics of how this unfolded, it's going to make you rethink every headline you've read in the last 5 years. The pieces are all there. We just need to put them together. And when we do, the picture that forms isn't of a victim. It's of a mastermind. And honestly, I'm here for it. Because if you're going to survive in a town like Nashville, you can't just be a singer. You have to be a survivor. And Miranda Lambert is the ultimate survivor. But there is one final piece of the puzzle in this first chapter. One detail that everyone overlooked. And it has to do with Gwen. Because while Miranda was making her quiet moves, Gwen was making loud ones. And the contrast created a perfect storm. It allowed Miranda to operate in the dark, because the spotlight was blindingly bright on the new couple. It was the perfect distraction. And you have to wonder, did Miranda count on that? Did she know that as long as the tabloids were obsessed with the new romance, nobody would be watching her business dealings? If she did, it's 4D chess. It's genius. And it's terrifying. Stay tuned. Because in a minute, I'm going to break down the exact timeline of how this alliance with the rival shifted the charts, and why Blake's camp stayed so silent about it. The silence wasn't weakness. It was fear. They knew, and they didn't know how to stop it. Part 2. What makes this story so unsettling isn't just who may have been supported. It's how quietly it all unfolded. No dramatic fallout. No angry interviews. No cryptic tweets lighting the internet on fire. Just momentum. The kind that builds while everyone's looking the other way. That's how Nashville power shifts. Slowly, then all at once. People forget that alliances in country music don't require contracts or announcements. They're built on favors, trust, and access. Who gets the call? Who gets the intro? Who gets vouched for when a room is deciding who matters next? And when someone with Miranda's influence leans even slightly in one direction, it changes the current. But before we get to the fallout, I need you to understand the machine. You see, we think artists just write songs and release them, but there is a machine behind them. A machine of radio promoters, booking agents, playlist curators. And that machine runs on relationships. When Blake and Miranda were together, they shared that machine. It was a dual engine. But when they split, the machine had to choose. Or so we thought. Miranda didn't wait for the machine to choose. She built a bypass. By aligning with someone like Eric Church, someone who exists slightly outside the pop, country machine. She signaled something powerful. She signaled that she didn't need the traditional route. And that is dangerous. Because if the artists realize they don't need the machine loses power. So this wasn't just a slap in the face to Blake. It was a warning shot to the entire industry. What's fascinating is how clean her hands stayed publicly. No one can point to a single moment and say, there, that's the betrayal. Instead, it's a trail of small decisions that only make sense when you zoom out. Decisions that, when stacked together, form a picture no one expected. And maybe that's why this story keeps resurfacing. Because fans sense there's more beneath it, something unresolved, something human. We feel it in the music. We feel it in the lack of interaction. Miranda never positioned herself as the villain or the victim. She just kept moving, writing, touring, building. And in doing so, she reminded everyone that she's not a side character in anyone else's story. Not even Blake's. Meanwhile, Blake leaned into visibility, television, humor. The role of the guy who landed on his feet. The one who smiled through it. And that contrast matters. Because when one person goes loud and the other goes quiet, people assume the quiet one has nothing to say. History shows that's rarely true. Usually, the quiet one is the one planning. The quiet one is the one loading the gun. Behind closed doors, sources have hinted that this wasn't about competition at all. It was about alignment, artistic respect, shared values. The idea that supporting someone doesn't automatically mean tearing someone else down. But perception doesn't care about intent. Especially when history is involved. Perception is reality in Hollywood and Nashville. And the perception was clear, lines were being drawn. Fans divided themselves into camps. Some saw Miranda's alleged moves as empowerment, a woman refusing to stay boxed into loyalty rules written by an industry that rarely protects women after divorce. Others saw it as cold, calculated, unnecessary. Because even if no vows were broken, lines felt crossed. And Blake, he stayed silent. Which, in itself, says something. Because if it were nothing, it would have been easy to laugh it off. A joke on a late-night show, a casual dismissal. Instead, there was distance. A subtle cooling. The kind that suggests awareness without confrontation. This is where the story stops being about music and starts being about identity. About what you owe to your past versus what you owe to your future. about whether loyalty should survive when love doesn't, and whether success after separation is allowed to overlap or must stay safely apart. But here is where it gets really interesting. The impact on the music itself. Have you noticed the shift in tone? The grit? The authenticity coming back to the radio? Some say that is the Eric Church effect. But maybe it's the Miranda effect too. By supporting the outsiders, she validated a sound that wasn't just bro country. She validated the storytellers. And in a way, that hurts the commercial pop country machine that Blake sits on top of. It's an artistic rebellion. And those are the hardest ones to fight. You can't fight art with PR. You can only fight it with better art. And that is a battle Blake has to fight on his own. Country music loves redemption arcs. It loves clear heroes and clean endings. This story refuses to give you that. Instead, it sits in the gray, where grown adults make choices that don't fit into neat moral boxes. If Miranda did support Blake's rival, it wasn't loud enough to be revenge. And it wasn't soft enough to be accidental. It lived in that uncomfortable middle space where intention hides behind professionalism. And maybe that's the point. Because the most powerful moves aren't the ones you announce. They're the ones people only understand once it's too late to stop them. Now the industry watches differently. Every collaboration, every endorsement, every quiet connection gets scrutinized. Not just for what it is, but for what it might mean. The trust that once felt unbreakable now feels conditional. And fans, they're left debating not just what happened, but how they feel about it. Because supporting a rival isn't inherently wrong. But doing it when history is this personal makes people question everything they thought they knew about forgiveness, boundaries, and moving on. Maybe this isn't a story about betrayal at all. Maybe it's about autonomy. About refusing to let your past dictate your future alliances. About understanding that growth sometimes looks like walking paths that make other people uncomfortable. Still, that doesn't make it hurt less. Because somewhere in all of this is a reminder that even after the love is gone, the echoes remain. Every choice gets filtered through what once was. Every success feels comparative. Every move gets interpreted. Think about Gwen and Blake's duets. They are beautiful. They are declarations of love. But they are also public branding. They scream, "We are happy." And in response, Miranda doesn't scream. She works. She writes. She aligns with the gritty, the real, the raw. It's a counter narrative, and it's fascinating to watch. It's like watching two different movies play out on the same screen. One is a rom-com, the other is an indie drama, and the audience is torn between which one to watch. But you have to give credit where credit is due. Miranda navigated a minefield and came out without a scratch. She kept her credibility. She kept her fan base. And she managed to tilt the industry axis just enough to make her point. And that point is, I am not just Blake Shelton's ex. I am Miranda Lambert. And I can make kings, or I can break them. That is power. Real power. Not the kind you get from a magazine cover. The kind you get from respect. And that's why this revelation, whether fully confirmed or forever whispered, won't fade quietly. It taps into something deeper than charts or rivals. It taps into the fear that the people who know us best can still surprise us. So now the question isn't whether Miranda did it. It's whether, in her place, you would have done the same. And that's the kind of question that keeps people watching, arguing, and coming back long after the music fades. Because we all want to believe we would take the high road. We all want to believe we would be above it. But when you are hurt, when you are publicly discarded, when your entire life is turned into entertainment, the high road gets lonely, and sometimes the side road, the one where you quietly help your ex's rival take the throne, looks a lot more interesting. It's human nature. And these stars, despite the glitz and the glamour, are painfully human. So what happens next? That is the million-dollar question. Does the rift widen? Does Blake eventually retaliate? Or do they just drift further apart into their separate universes? My bet? The game isn't over. Nashville is a small town. Paths will cross. And when they do, pay attention to the body language. Pay attention to who claps for who. Pay attention to the silence. Because in this story, the silence has always been the loudest part. And for the fans, it's a lesson. Don't believe everything you see on TV. The real show isn't on the stage, it's in the wings. It's in the writers' rooms. It's in the decisions made over whiskey at 2 a.m. That is where the legends are made. And that is where the scores are settled. Miranda Lambert settled hers. Not with a shout, but with a whisper. And that whisper is still echoing through the halls of music row. It's a reminder that you should never underestimate the quiet ones. They are the ones watching. They are the ones waiting. And they are the ones who change the game while everyone else is just trying to play it. And if you look at the charts today, look at the tours, look at the acclaim, you have to ask yourself, who really won the breakup? The one with the TV show? Or the one who reshaped the sound of the genre? History is written by the victors. But in Nashville, history is written by the songwriters, and Miranda Lambert holds the pen. So the next time you hear a rumor, or see a strange collaboration, or notice a subtle shift in the wind, don't brush it off. Dig deeper, because there is always a story beneath the story. And usually, that story is about love, loss, and the lengths we will go to reclaim our own narrative. This isn't just gossip, it's modern Shakespeare with cowboy boots. And we are all just the audience, watching the tragedy and the triumph unfold in real time. What a time to be a country music fan. The drama is real, the stakes are high, and the music has never been better. Maybe heartbreak really is the best muse, or maybe, just maybe, revenge is. But not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that builds empires, the kind that Miranda Lambert perfected. So, Team Miranda or Team Blake? Or are you team? Just give me the music. Whatever side you are on, you can't deny the brilliance of the move. It was masterclass, and class is dismissed. But before you go, ask yourself one last thing. If you had the power to change the industry that broke your heart, would you use it? I think we both know the answer. And that is why this story will never truly die. Because it's not just about them. It's about us, and the choices we wish we were brave enough to make. The lights go down. The crowd cheers. The song starts. But now, you hear it differently. You hear the secrets in the chords. You hear the strategy in the melody. And you realize the show never really ends. It just changes venues. And right now, Miranda Lambert is headlining the biggest stage of all, the one inside our heads. Well played, Miranda. Well played. The industry is watching. We are watching. And we can't wait to see what you do next. Because if this chapter taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected. And to never, ever count out a woman with a guitar and a grudge. That's the beauty of country music. The truth is always in the song. You just have to listen close enough to hear it. So go ahead. Listen again. What do you hear now? Betrayal or liberation? The choice is yours. But the reality is written in the silence. And the silence is screaming.